Welcome back, focused learners. Today's explainer takes us to one of the most famous, most photographed monuments literally anywhere on Earth, the Taj Mahal. Now, we all marvel at its beauty, right? But as we're going to see today, almost everything you think you're seeing on its surface is actually this brilliant, meticulously calculated deception. Let's just jump right into it. So, I want you to imagine for a second that you're standing right in front of the Taj Mahal. If you look closely at the walls, the archways, and that massive Great Gate, you're going to see these incredibly intricate, sweeping lines of calligraphy. You see vibrant, flowing floral designs that look exactly like masterful, delicate brushstrokes just sweeping across the white marble. Naturally, you kind of have to ask yourself this seemingly obvious question: is the Taj Mahal painted? I mean, did an army of artisans just stand up there on scaffolding with buckets of ink and paintbrushes to decorate this massive structure? Well, the answer is a resounding, definitive no. There is absolutely no trace of paint on any of its exterior marble surfaces, not a single drop. What millions of visitors perceive as paint, what looks exactly like the careful stroke of an ink brush, is actually this grand, mind-bending illusion built entirely out of solid stone and advanced mathematics. Okay, let's dive into this. Part 1, the grand illusion, and the math behind the script. Let's actually look at that stunning Arabic script, specifically the Quranic verses framing the Great Gate and the main mausoleum. If it's not ink, how on earth do they get those sweeping, elegant letters onto the marble? Well, it's created through a technique called pietra dura. Basically, builders carved out the white marble and perfectly inlaid solid black marble to form the letters. But the real genius here belongs to master calligrapher Amanat Khan Shirazi. He knew that standard-sized letters would look tiny and all distorted at the top because of, perspective. So he didn't just use art. He actually used complex trigonometry to deliberately distort the letters, scaling them perfectly so they achieve absolute optical uniformity to the human eye. To really wrap our heads around the scale of this math, let's look at the actual sizes. If you're just standing there on the ground, looking at the very bottom of the script right at eye level, the letters there are actually quite small. They're only about 2 inches tall. But as your eyes travel up that massive archway, the letters seem to stay the exact same size. In reality, though, to maintain that perfect optical illusion from the ground, the letters at the very top of the arch scale up to, well, over 4 feet high. Just think about the sheer precision required to carve 4-foot-tall black marble letters that perfectly mimic the stroke of a pen, all while calculating the exact viewing angle from the ground. It is absolutely staggering. And, this unparalleled mathematical and artistic achievement definitely didn't go unnoticed. Amanat Khan Shirazi's work was so flawless that he was granted a distinct, truly exclusive honor. He was literally the only artist permitted to sign his work on the entire monument. He left his proud mark and beautiful Nastaliq script right near the main entrance, forever cementing his name as the mastermind behind this incredible illusion. Which brings us to part 2, painting with stones, the medium. So, okay, that explains the black calligraphy, but what about the vibrant colors? If there's no paint anywhere on the exterior, what exactly are we looking at when we see those impossibly delicate, colorful floral designs blooming all over the white marble? Well, we're looking at parchinkari, or pietra dura. Artisans essentially painted by carving intricate hollows into the white marble base and then custom-cutting brilliantly colored semi-precious stones to fit directly into those hollows. It's literally like the world's most high-precision jigsaw puzzle. Now, what's really interesting about this is the sheer logistical nightmare it must have been to gather these materials. You don't just go to a local shop for this stuff. They built a massive global supply chain. To get the deep blues, they brought lapis lazuli all the way from Afghanistan. The vibrant greens came from jade sourced over in China. They brought turquoise down from Tibet and striking red jasper from the Punjab. They basically scoured the entire continent just to build their color palette out of literal rock. And the craftsmanship goes down to a microscopic level. The artisans cut these stones with such devastating precision that the joints between them are practically invisible to the naked eye. In fact, if you look closely at some of the floral designs, you'll see a yellow stone stem that appears to weave underneath and then over a green stem, casting what looks exactly like a shadow. It looks completely three-dimensional. But if you were to run your hand right over it, it's completely smooth. They're perfectly flat stones, precisely cut and set at the exact same level, totally engineered to trick your brain into seeing a 3D weave. And here is the ultimate advantage that pietra dura actually has over traditional paint. Paint absorbs light, right? And eventually it fades. But these are semi-precious stones. They reflect light.
This means the monument is dynamically changing depending on the time of day. Under the bright sun or a full moon, the floral designs gleam brilliantly. In fact, if you hit these specific inlaid stones with a flashlight, they don't just reflect, they actually catch the light and glow from within, almost like tiny, colorful light bulbs embedded right there in the walls. Moving right along to part 3, masterpieces of geometric deception.
Let's zoom out from the microscopic stones to the macro architecture. If you direct your attention to the corners of the Taj Mahal, you'll see what really looks to be an 8-sided octagonal column featuring protruding zigzag lines. Your brain immediately registers the depth and the shadow of a complex, multi-layered pillar. But it's a total lie. In reality, it is a completely flat, 4-sided surface. The builders just used perfectly placed light and dark stone patterns to literally force your brain into perceiving a complex, 3-dimensional structure that isn't actually there.
And this brilliantly illustrates how the architects constantly manipulated scale to play with human perception. From a distance, your eyes see sharp, patterned parallel lines covering the walls, almost like crisp geometric wallpaper. But as you walk closer, the geometry completely dissolves. Upon closer inspection, those strict parallel lines reveal themselves to be composed of hundreds of tiny, individually carved jasmine flowers. The macrogeometry is made entirely out of microorganics.
And speaking of organics, the artisans carving those vast white marble blocks clearly had a bit of a sense of humor. While the Taj Mahal is an incredibly solemn mausoleum, if you look very, very closely at the sprawling, carved floral reliefs, you're going to find wildlife camouflaged right within the leaves. The builders playfully hid figures inside the flowers, including intertwined snakes, scorpions, and even butterflies. It really rewards the viewer who takes the time to look past the overwhelming grandeur and focus on the tiny details.
Now for part 4, the twist, the secret painted chambers.
So we've firmly established that the entire exterior is a masterful deception of stone and math. But there is one massive, hidden exception to the rule. Hidden deep beneath the white marble platform, away from the sunlight, there are exactly 22 sealed underground chambers. For decades, these rooms were locked away, but in the 1980s, a team of researchers was actually allowed inside to investigate, and what they found completely shattered the no-paint rule. As noted in the reports, they discovered traces of real, actual painted decorations that had been hidden away under layers of whitewash. These secret rooms are known as takana, which translates to cooling chambers. Long ago, the walls of these subterranean rooms featured actual brush and ink painted netted patterns and these beautiful concentric circles of stars. However, due to historic flood damage and ongoing security concerns, these 22 chambers have been firmly closed to the public for decades. It's a brilliant irony, really. The only place in the entire Taj Mahal complex where real paint and brush strokes were actually used is the one place locked away in the dark where no visitor can ever even see it. Which brings us to the end of our explainer and leaves us with a fascinating final thought. We stared directly at the walls of the Taj Mahal, and our brains are totally deceived by flat stones and trigonometry. So what does this all mean? Well, if its greatest, most brilliant illusions are hiding right there in plain sight under the bright sun, what other incredible secrets might still be hidden down there in the dark? Think about that the next time you see a picture of those grand white domes. Until next time, keep questioning what you see.